there and welcome. It's Psychic Cynthia here, Spiritual Psychic Cynthia here. And welcome. Happy Spring Equinox, almost Spring Equinox. Happy Vernal Equinox. Yes, that's right. We're going to be having another equinox soon, coming up here on Sunday, March 20th. And that is the day when the sun enters Aries. Here in my time zone, Central USA Daylight Time, that shift will be exact at 10:33 a.m. So you can translate that for wherever you're living at. But you get the general idea that coming up on the 20th of March, Sunday, the sun is going to make a major shift. And we're having the spring equinox, at least for those of us in the northern hemisphere. For all my friends down south, I realize this will be the fall equinox for you. But there's similar energies in that on the equinox, spring or fall, you know, this is a time of moving towards balance. This is a time where many people feel perhaps that they're hanging in suspension, or, you know, that there's a big shift that needs to happen for them. And it makes sense really if you look at the astronomy of the equinox and you look at how that sun is at a midway point between where it will be between the two solstices. So this is a time of taking balance and taking stock. Now, specifically for those of us in the northern hemisphere, because that's where I live, this means that the sun is moving from Pisces into Aries, astrologically speaking. And this is a marvelous reset button. It's a time to be reborn, to experience rejuvenation and rebirth, because with Pisces we have the wisdom and the karma and, you know, all of the collective energies, but Pisces, you know, one of its symbols is the weary old man. So because it has so much karma and so much, it knows so much, it's a very wise sign, but it's also very weary. And so this is the time of the year when the weary old man of Pisces gives way to the spring chick of Aries, to the rebirth. And rebirth really is a theme with this, and renewal. Understand too that when the sun enters Aries, wherever you live, northern or southern, this is considered the beginning of the astrological new year. In other words, the zodiac starts over here. It's really a circle, so there is no end, but you understand what I'm saying in that Aries is the first sign. So this is definitely a time of new beginnings. But I also would encourage you to think about retooling existing beginnings. This is a time to sprout, to rejuvenate and renew. You know, it is, spring is a time of renewal. And if you think about it, like I don't know if you can see them, but there's daffodils sprouting behind here. They don't have flowers yet. The leaves are just coming up. So all over my yard I have daffodils and tulips. Their leaves are sprouting up now. And they come out of bulbs that were planted much earlier. And that's how it works around this time of year with the sun entering Aries. I mean, because if you think about it, the civil new year, at least for most of us who would be watching this video, the civil new year starts January 1st in the sign of Capricorn. But the astrological new year begins with the entrance of the sun into Aries. So Capricorn, which is the, you know, this is the time of the year, that time of year is when you're making your plans and thinking about your, you know, your master plans and your goals and your dreams and your ambitions for the year ahead. But Aries is the master executor. Aries gets things started. Now, a lot of Aries don't always follow through. That's what we have Taurus for. Taurus is the master builder. So you can almost think of this time in the next month. I mean, especially, you know, because we're having the full moon a couple of days. The full moon in Virgo is just a couple of days before the equinox. So there's a big rush of energy right now to get started, if you haven't already, to take strides forward. But you can think of this time from March 20th to around April 20th, around the time the sun enters Taurus. I don't have that date here in front of me, but it's going to be close to April 20th. So that next month ahead, it's a time for you to have, gentle new beginnings, and to let things emerge. I mean, in fact, if I were to think of one word that could summarize this next month ahead, the start of the equinox season, the one word that I think that is coming through as I'm channeling here with the guides is re-emergence. So think about that and meditate on that. Take that deeply into your heart. And just say with me now, close your eyes if you will, and let's say that word together. And let's see what it feels like to you. Let's try it on. Re-emergence. 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 What does that mean for you? What does that look like for you? In what areas of life do you need to renew or re-emerge? So it isn't about completely planting new seeds. Remember, these tulips and daffodils are coming up. They weren't just planted. They were planted long ago in the fall, around the time of the other equinox. So what is it in your life, within yourself, that you need to renew, to revisit, to rejuvenate? And I know for many of us at this time of the year, we just want to get up and move around and, renew our movement practice, renew getting outside in nature, or perhaps renew getting out and about socially. But maybe it's not all about getting out and about for you. Maybe it's renewing in a more active way your meditation practice, your spiritual learnings, your spiritual practice, your own psychic readings, your own psychic inclinations, your own connection to Source, to the cosmos. Just think about that. Just meditate on that, this idea of the season ahead of re-emergence, because that truly is what this vernal equinox is for those of us in the spring. And you don't have to be in a hurry, even though you probably will be, with the sun entering Aries. Aries is such a rush sign. It's always in a hurry. It is very dramatic and intense, and I would know. I have an Aries moon, so I really intimately understand these energies, although having the moon is a little bit different than having the sun in Aries. And so that's where we're at now. We're going to have the sun in Aries, and we're all going to be a little Aries-like. We're all going to be a little bit more impatient, but then also childlike, perhaps full of wonder. And I think that's the most positive aspect of Aries, is that it says, why not? I mean, there's a part of myself that I see as very Aries, and I see it in others, and it's that part of you that says, oh, I'm interested in doing this, or meeting this person, or I would like to learn this. Why not? I love that confidence of Aries. In its highest vibration, it is the opposite of all the negative crap, the negative self-talk that we all have. That part of you that doubts? The part of you that says that you can't do this, and it's really fixated on limitations? Well, screw all that. When we're in Aries, I mean, that's the opposite of Aries. Aries says, yes, you can. So that's another thing to think about, another phrase to meditate upon. Yes, I can. Say that to yourself. Because yes, you can. I mean, what's to hold you back from trying something new? And at the end of the day, all your excuses, whatever they are, that's all they are, is just excuses. That's what Aries teaches us, okay? Now, when we move into Taurus, a month later, that's a more practical sign. And, Taurus teaches us about, maybe how we have to deal with some of our limitations, but still, limitations can be worked with. We know, those of us who are on the spiritual path at least, and I'm going to assume you're on the spiritual path, or otherwise why would you be watching this video? So we know that we have the power in our consciousness to shape reality. Now, it doesn't mean that we're the only creators in our reality, because I think most of you watching this are also aware of the spiritual world and the spirit world, and that there are many forms of spiritual beings that are, constantly in co-creation with humanity. I mean, even just me sitting out here in this garden that is coming back to life, I mean, there are divas and there are fairies and there are elementals, and they are at work here. And that has very little to do with me. Well, maybe some, because I co-create with them and I follow their lead and what to do in the garden. But, you know, humanity isn't everything. So I'm not saying that we're the only co-creators, but you are a co-creator. That's what's important. You do have some influence over your reality. And, you know, whether it's through your own consciousness, your own will to grow, your desire, your earnest, sincere desire to grow, to evolve. I mean, there are very few things in all of the realms more powerful than the earnest and sincere desire of a seeker to evolve. If you have a deep desire in your heart to grow truly in a certain way, whether that is artistically, creatively, even financially, spiritually, professionally, physically, in other words, to move beyond your limitations, the universe will support that. It definitely will. And again, this is all part of the Aries energy, which Aries loves to extend out beyond boundaries. Aries loves to push beyond. I mean, you know, the best way to get Aries to do something is to simply say, you can't do that, to forbid it, and then they'll want to do it, right? Because that's part of what Aries is about, is proving others wrong. So this is the part of yourself that is very cutting edge, that does not accept limitations, that has a can-do attitude. And I just encourage you to lean into that. And it's true, later on you might have to deal, you know, with some reality issues as you work out the details. I mean, like for example, a couple years ago I started studying Spanish on a whim. Well, not on a whim, it'd been regurgitating a long time, but you know, it's easy to get started, but then to keep going year after year, that's hard. But that's not Aries realms, okay? That's more like the Taurus or the Capricorn or the Virgo realm. That's for another video, another time. Just let yourself get started re-emerging, recommitting to your path, renewing, rejuvenating, however you do that. And I don't know if I need to say this, but maybe there's somebody out there that needs to hear this. Of course, spring is an awesome time to also physically and emotionally rejuvenate and renew. So if it's been a while since you've had a spa day, you know, since you've received a Reiki treatment or had a nurturing massage done or had a reading done, you know, get some emotional support. If it's been a while, you know, it might be time. It might be time. We do need to keep ourselves nurtured in the spring, because the rebirth is new. I mean, even though you are rebirthing and you are renewing, but your energies have not rebuilt back up yet to their strongest vigor, which happens more, you know, when we go into the signs of the summer for us in the Northern Hemisphere. So do remember to keep renewing and building yourself up. You know, that's another way to think of this. This is a time of rebuilding, especially for those in the Northern Hemisphere who were coming out of winter. So that means our energies are going to be actually at its lowest. One of the most important things of all, which doesn't have to cost any money, it's just taking time, is like what I'm doing here, is getting sunlight. Your bodies need the sunlight to renew. Notice I said bodies, so I'm speaking not only of a physicality here, I'm speaking of, you know, the auric fields, the light body, the chakras, the meridians, all of it, okay? All of it. There are frequencies encoded in sunlight. I mean, it's much more than vitamin D. You know, I hear some people talk about, well, I don't get enough sunlight, I'm going to take vitamin D, and that's great. I mean, if you want to do that, of course, vitamin D is wonderful. But if you think that's all we're getting from light, I mean, think again. There's frequencies that are beyond what we can measure currently in our primitive science. So yes, one of the best things you can do to help yourself renew in the spring is get in the spring light. The spring light is much more gentle than the summer light. And we need that. And by the time the summer light comes around, you know, we can't be in the summer light all the time. There's times in the summer, if you're in that direct light, it will burn. But the spring light, you know, especially the mornings and the evening lights, it is much more gentle, and it brings spiritual nutrients to your various bodies and helps sustain your energy fields so that you can continue to make contact in a balanced way with your inner guidance and with your guides the Ascended Masters and your Archangels and your ancestors and all of them. All right, well, those are some tips for this time of spring renewal, and I am sending you all bright blessings and waves of renewal and abundance as we move towards summer. Until next time, bright blessings.